The FBI is the most powerful police force the world has ever known. From crushing the gangsters to smashing Hitler's spy rings, from dismantling al-Qaeda cells to leading the greatest counterterrorism and deportation operations in history, the Bureau has hunted, infiltrated, recorded, and erased threats real and imagined. Behind the Bureau stood one man who understood power better than any president: J. Edgar Hoover. Europe is burning. For 3 years, the Great War has devoured a generation in the muddy trenches of France, while America watches from the sidelines, safe behind two oceans. Then, in April 1917, Woodrow Wilson signs the Declaration. The United States is now at war with the Imperial Germany. Back in 1908, Theodore Roosevelt created the FBI with a stroke of a pen and 34 borrowed Secret Service agents. By 1916, it is still a tiny, nameless bureau inside the Justice Department. No badge, no guns, no real power. Laughed at by local police and ignored by Congress. But soon, a monumental event is about to take place and change all of that. Just after midnight, Black Tom Island, a mile-long munitions depot in New York Harbor, begins to burn. German saboteurs, 𝐟𝐢𝐥𝐦, 𝐿𝐿, and their invisible network have spent months smuggling time bombs into 700,000 tons of explosives destined for Britain and France. First blast rips the night open. 2,000 tons of TNT and dynamite detonate in a chain reaction that lasts minutes and feels like the end of the world. Windows shatter 40 miles away. The Statue of Liberty is scarred by flying steel. 7 people die on the spot. Hundreds are wounded, and the shockwave is felt in Philadelphia.
Frank McManamy, who investigated for the Interstate Commerce Commission the big explosion at New York last Sunday, returned to Washington today and reported that the fire was burning on a Black Tom Island at least 2 hours before the blast occurred.
When Americans opened their newspapers that morning and saw the Statue of Liberty damaged by sabotage, the fear was visceral. Overnight, the war felt real, and every German neighbor suddenly looked like a potential enemy within.
President Wilson gives the Justice Department emergency war powers. Arrest any alien deemed dangerous, no questions, no trial. The little bureau suddenly has money, men, and a mission. Overnight, it becomes the Alien Enemy Bureau, tracking, registering, and jailing thousands of Germans living in America. And in the chaos of that new war, a door opens in Washington. A young man, 22 years old, ruthless and hungry, steps across the threshold of the Justice Department. His name is John Edgar Hoover. The age of American secret intelligence has begun. John Edgar Hoover is born into a family of government clerks who have served the Capitol for 3 generations. They live in a modest row house 6 blocks from the Capitol Dome. Church every Sunday, chores every night, no wasted minutes.
As a teenager, he was small, fast-talking, and ruthlessly competitive. He stuttered badly when nervous, but on the debate stage he was ice cold and unstoppable. He hated losing more than anything else.
At Central High School, he drills with the Cadet Corps, leads the debate team to city championships, and edits the yearbook. At night, he works as a messenger and cataloger at the Library of Congress, mastering its secret classification system, learning that every fact can be found if you know how to file and retrieve it. He graduates valedictorian, then races through George Washington University Law School, while working days, earning his LLB in 1916 and his Master of Laws in 1917, the same year America enters the war. By July 1917, a 22-year-old Hoover starts as a clerk in the War Emergency Division. But his ambition is far greater than that. He's waiting for the single shattering moment when the nation will beg someone, anyone, to save it from revolution. And soon, that opportunity will present itself as a new world order is on the rise. By the early 1910s, something unprecedented is happening in Russia. Lenin seizes power, executes the Tsar, and promises the workers of the world a new paradise. By 1919, the Soviet Union is born, factories humming, illiteracy falling, electricity reaching villages that never had it. To millions of exhausted people, it looks like the future arriving overnight. America watches and trembles.
When American soldiers who fought World War I came home in 1919, they found shuttered factories, no jobs, and bread lines. Then the strikes hit. Steel, coal, even Boston's cops walked out. Race riots torched 25 cities. America looked like it was tearing itself apart from the inside.
To the rich and powerful, it feels like the Bolshevik plague is already on the docks. Bombs go off in 8 cities, 8 at once. One package blows the hands off a senator's maid. Another is meant for Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer himself.
An attempt to blow up the residence of A. Mitchell Palmer, Attorney General of the United States, was made at 11:15 o'clock last night when a bomb, which had been placed on the front doorstep, exploded, blowing in the lower front of the house and also wrecking windows.
Congress had already passed the Espionage Act and the Sedition Act. Now fear does the rest. Any foreigner who looks red can be jailed, deported, erased. 24-year-old J. Edgar Hoover is waiting for this moment. He's handed the brand new Radical Division 200,000 index cards, unlimited overtime, and a direct line to the Attorney General. In November 1919, he masterminds the Palmer raids. Federal agents and local police smash into homes at midnight. No warrants needed. They drag thousands of men, women, even children into the street. Many are beaten. Hundreds are thrown onto a freezing ship nicknamed the Soviet Ark and deported to Russia without trial. Hoover personally writes the deportation orders, signs everyone, keeps perfect files on every name. He calls it justice. Others call it terror.
It worked. By 1920, the Communist Party membership plummeted, unions laid in ruins, and radicals were either deported or silenced. The government had proven, in one brutal year, that it could smash any movement it labeled a threat.
But peace does not last. A big economic event is on the horizon. And with it, a new enemy will rise. One who carries a Thompson submachine gun instead of a manifesto. His name is John Dillinger. October 1929. Wall Street crashes. Billions vanish in hours. Banks lock their doors. Factories go dark. Farms are foreclosed.
Prices just plunged from the opening. More and more margin calls were going out. By the end of the day, 16 million shares had traded, and a great many people had been ruined.
By 1933, 1 American in 4 is out of work. Bread lines stretch for blocks. Children go hungry in the richest country on earth. Hope dies first. Out of despair, a new kind of outlaw is born. Pretty Boy Floyd robs banks in Oklahoma style and gives money to starving farmers. Babyface Nelson sprays streets with machine gun fire and laughs. Ma Barker and her boys carve a bloody trail from Minnesota to Florida. Machine Gun Kelly brags he invented the kidnapping racket. The country is suddenly at war with its own desperados. Then John Dillinger steps onto the stage. A cocky Indiana farm boy, jailed at 19 for a botched grocery holdup, he learns crime from the best bank robbers in prison. Paroled in May 1933, he robs his first bank 10 days later. In the next 9 months, he hits a dozen more, escapes jail twice, once with a fake gun carved from wood, shoots his way out of police traps, taunts sheriffs with postcards. Crowds cheer when he leaps over bank counters. Newsreels call him public enemy number one.
Dillinger wasn't just good, he was magic. Perfect timing, perfect disguise, perfect getaway routes. He made robbing banks look like an art form, and half the country secretly loved him for it.
J. Edgar Hoover reads every story, clips every photo, and feels the heat rising. He makes a silent vow. Dillinger must fall. And if it takes turning the country's scorched earth, so be it. It will become the greatest manhunt in American history. It is summer 1934. John Dillinger is untouchable. He robs banks in broad daylight, vanishes across state lines, changes cars like shirts, hides in plain sight with plastic surgery and new names.
22 persons in the office of Robert G. Estill today pointed accusing fingers at John Dillinger and unanimously agreed that he was the gunman who shot and killed policeman Patrick O'Malley during the holdup of the First National Bank of East Chicago.
Local police hate him, newspapers love him, half the country wants his autograph. A woman in a flaming red dress walks into the cool darkness of the Biograph Theater on Dillinger's arm. She is Anna Sage, soon to be deported, and she has sold the devil for a green card. Outside, 20 agents lie hidden in doorways and parked cars. When the film ends, Dillinger steps casually into the alley, unaware that death had been betrayed by the woman in red. Agents rise like shadows. Dillinger's eyes widen in recognition. His hand dives for his handgun in his pocket. Too late. 5 shots crack the night. He crumples face down on the pavement, blood pooling under the streetlight. Public enemy number one is gone at 31.
That night on the sidewalk outside the Biograph changed everything. Dillinger's death proved the FBI could hunt down and kill the most famous outlaw in America. Overnight, the Bureau went from a joke to a national police force.
For J. Edgar Hoover, it is a long-awaited victory, a validation. The man who hates chaos more than death itself has drawn first blood. Wasting no time, he quietly declares war on every criminal in America. Pretty Boy Floyd will be dead by October, Babyface Nelson by November, Machine Gun Kelly in chains before Christmas. The age of the gangster is over. The age of the G-Man has begun. Since Adolf Hitler seized power in Berlin, he is unstoppable. On September 1st, 1939, his tanks smash across the Polish border in a lightning war that swallows the country in weeks. London burns, Paris falls, and the world understands. This is no ordinary dictator. Franklin Roosevelt smiles for the cameras and promises America will stay neutral. But behind closed doors, he's anxious as hell. He knows war is coming, and America is asleep.
FDR was a talented politician. So at that time, he was trying to win a re-election. So he had to tell Americans that the country will never get into a foreign war again, while secretly he had to prepare America for a war.
On June 26, 1940, in a secret memo marked only for J. Edgar Hoover's eyes, FDR orders the FBI to begin compiling a master list of every American citizen or resident who might be dangerous in wartime. Nazis, fascists, communists, anyone who could help Hitler. No public announcement, no congressional approval, just a quiet directive to watch, wiretap, and index the nation.
That single memo created the custodial detention list, later renamed the Security Index. For the first time, the FBI had presidential permission to secretly rate hundreds of thousands of Americans by how much threat they posed. It was the birth of the modern domestic surveillance state.
The biggest test comes fast. For years, a German master spy, Fritz Duquesne, has run a 33-person ring across New York. stealing blueprints for bomb sites, Norden bombs, aircraft carriers, even the formula for synthetic rubber. They hide in plain sight: a toy salesman, a librarian, a baker. Then, in 1939, a German-American walk-in named William Siebold agrees to become a double agent for the FBI. For 16 months, Siebold feeds Duquesne fake secrets, while hidden cameras in a Times Square office record every meeting. FBI agents hit 33 locations at dawn. Every single spy is caught with the evidence still in their pockets. It is the largest espionage bust in American history. Overnight, the Bureau is no longer just a gangster hunting squad. It is the shield of the nation. Congress finally gives Hoover everything he wants: more money, more men, more wiretaps, more power. The FBI becomes the most feared intelligence service inside America's borders, and Hoover's secret list keeps growing. December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor burns, and the isolationist dream dies with it. America marches to war, yet even before the first troops ship out, a far deadlier shadow falls across the Oval Office. German physicists are chasing an atomic bomb that could erase cities in a heartbeat. Albert Einstein's letter lands on Roosevelt's desk like a death warrant. Within weeks, the president authorizes the Manhattan Project, the largest, most secret industrial effort in human history. On July 16, 1945, the New Mexico desert lights up with the first man-made sun. 3 weeks later, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are ashes. The war ends, the world cheers, and America believes it alone holds the ultimate weapon. Stalin already has armies across Eastern Europe, and American intelligence picks up terrifying signals. The Soviets know far too much about the bomb. Someone inside the Manhattan Project has been talking. The Army's top-secret Venona project begins quietly cracking Soviet codes. For 4 years, codebreakers in a guarded building in Arlington, Virginia, translate fragments of old Moscow cables. Slowly names appear: American citizens, British scientists, trusted Manhattan Project physicists feeding secrets to the Kremlin.
Venona was one of the most well-kept intelligence secret in America. It proved the Soviet Union had dozens of spies inside the most guarded project in history, so almost nobody outside a tiny circle was allowed to see it.
The biggest name is Klaus Fuchs, German-born, brilliant, already a communist when he arrives at Los Alamos. For years, he passes exact bomb designs to Moscow. In January 1950, Venona finally gives the FBI enough to move. Hoover personally directs the trap. British MI5 arrests Fuchs in London.
Charged with giving atomic secrets to Soviet Russia, 3 men were indicted by the federal grand jury in Brooklyn yesterday for conspiring to violate the National Espionage Act. They were linked with Dr. Emil Julius Klaus Fuchs, convicted British scientist who recently has been interviewed by agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
He confesses everything: the bomb's core design, the trigger mechanism, all delivered to Stalin. Stalin stole the bomb while America was still celebrating victory. The FBI is no longer just a police force. It is the invisible shield between democracy and doomsday. The hottest war is over. The coldest one has just begun, and J. Edgar Hoover is ready to fight it for the rest of his life. The 1950s dawn bright and nervous. Suburbs explode across the landscape, televisions glow in every living room, and America's factories churn out cars and refrigerators like never before. But under the chrome and tail fins, the Cold War casts a long shadow. Stalin has the bomb, China falls to Mao, and American troops bleed in Korea. From a small anti-radical unit in 1919, the FBI has become a colossus. It runs the biggest fingerprint file on Earth, wiretaps at will, keeps secret dossiers on hundreds of thousands of citizens, and answers to one man only, J. Edgar Hoover.
Hoover survived 8 presidents and 16 attorneys general because he had files on every single one of them. So he made himself politically bulletproof. By the 1950s, he was Washington's untouchable man.
Fear of communism is everywhere. Senator Joseph McCarthy waves lists of traitors in the State Department. Hollywood stars are blacklisted. Teachers lose jobs for reading the wrong books.
In this committee, activities may well determine whether this nation will live or die.
America is rich, powerful, and terrified that the enemy is already inside the house. But a new wind is coming. A young, handsome war hero named John F. Kennedy is climbing the political ladder fast. He speaks of vigor, of a new frontier, of letting the old ways go. JFK and J. Edgar Hoover are on a collision course, and only one man can survive unchanged. JFK is a golden boy from Harvard. War hero, congressman at 29, senator at 35, Pulitzer Prize winner, youngest man ever elected president. John F. Kennedy promises a new frontier: civil rights, space, youth, change. He beats Richard Nixon by one of the slimmest margins in history and takes the oath on a freezing January day.
And to remember that in the past, those who foolishly sought power by riding the back of the tiger ended up inside.
Kennedy was everything the old guard hated: young, rich, Catholic, glamorous, and unafraid to kick over the furniture. He believed America could be better, braver, freer, and particularly JFK wanted Hoover to retire and revamp the FBI.
Hoover is 65, has run the FBI for 36 years, and has never lost a fight in Washington. And he knows exactly how to clip a young John F. Kennedy's wings.
Hoover had files that could have ended Kennedy's presidency in a single afternoon. You know, the mob connections, the mistresses, the late night parties while Secret Service was waiting outside.
It is political nitroglycerin, and Hoover carries the detonator. March the 1962. Hoover requests a quiet Oval Office lunch, no staff present. He slides a thin folder across the desk, names, dates, photographs. The meeting ends quickly. After that day, Kennedy never again speaks of replacing Hoover or restraining the Bureau. But JFK's fate will soon have a darker turn.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office.
JFK is killed in broad daylight. The nation stops breathing. Before the echoes fade, the FBI storms the crime scene like an occupying army. Lee Harvey Oswald, a sullen ex-Marine who once defected to Moscow, is dragged in for killing a Dallas cop, then swiftly branded the president's assassin.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about it was when the newspaper reporters in the hall asked me that question.
48 hours later, Jack Ruby, a nightclub owner with mob ties, shoots Oswald dead on live television. Very quickly, J. Edgar Hoover tells the White House, "One lone gunman, no conspiracy, end of story."
Hoover didn't investigate. He forced a lone shooter narrative down America's throat before the autopsy was even finished.
Every thread leading to the mafia, every CIA link, every warning from FBI agents who had actually interviewed Oswald and let him walk, all of it vanished into locked drawers. It was the fastest, cleanest burial of the truth in history.
The young president lies in a flak-draped casket, while the old director closes the case with a snap of his fingers. Lyndon Baines Johnson takes the oath aboard Air Force One with a stunned Jackie Kennedy still wearing her blood-stained suit. A new and far darker partnership is about to begin, one that will drag the FBI deeper into the shadows than even Hoover ever planned. November 22, 1963. Lyndon Baines Johnson becomes President of the United States. He promises a great society, civil rights, Medicare, war on poverty, voting rights for Black Americans. He wants to finish what Kennedy started and go further. LBJ and Hoover hate each other's guts, but LBJ knows he needs Hoover now. Johnson knows Hoover has files on everyone, including him. Hoover knows Johnson can give him anything he wants: money, wiretaps, total freedom. They make a deal. No retirement age, no oversight, total war on America's enemies, foreign and domestic.
They were both kind of American tough guys, right? So LBJ gave Hoover a blank check, and Hoover gave LBJ the most powerful secret police any president ever had. So it was a marriage built on mutual fear.
And soon they embark on their biggest project yet. Three young civil rights workers vanish outside Philadelphia, Mississippi. The Klan murdered them and buried them in an earthen dam. LBJ calls Hoover personally and says, "I want those bastards destroyed." Hoover floods the state with hundreds of agents, pays informants, bugs Klan meeting halls, turns Klansmen against each other. Within months, 18 murderers are in prison. The Klan in Mississippi is broken forever. But Hoover himself does not love the civil rights movement. The man who crushed the Klan has no love for the movement that forced his hand.
Hoover believed the entire civil rights struggle is a communist plot, and Martin Luther King is its most dangerous actor.
From 1964 onward, the FBI wages secret war on Black America. Microphones hidden in hotel lamps record King's raging sex lives. Hoover believes the moral leader of African Americans is anything but moral. The Black Panther Party is hit even harder. Forged letters that spark deadly shootouts. Paid informants who start gun battles. Raids planned with local police. December 4th, 1969. Fred Hampton lies asleep in his Chicago apartment when police, guided by an FBI informant, kick in the door and empty 99 bullets into the room. Hoover never blinks.
Fred Hampton, the Illinois chairman of the Black Panther Party, and another Panther leader were killed today in a pre-dawn shootout with a police raiding party.
Johnson and Hoover reshape the nation together, but the cost is a shadow state that watches its own citizens more closely than it watches the Soviets. But the head of the American secret police will soon face his ultimate enemy: time. The 1960s roar in with hope, then tear themselves apart. But the Vietnam War swallows everything. 500,000 troops, nightly body counts on television, cities burning in riots, campuses exploding in protest. By 1968, America is rich, divided, and exhausted. Richard Nixon wins the White House promising law and order.
For all of our people, we will set as our goal the decent order that makes progress possible and our lives secure.
He looked at Hoover's empire, the secret files, the wiretaps, the power. He wanted it all for himself. So both of them were very paranoid, but they had to work together.
But Hoover's health is fading. In his final years, Hoover is a shadow of the bulldog he once was. Heart disease, high blood pressure, arthritis twist his hands.
By the end, Hoover was a frail old man clinging to power with everything he had. He knew his health was gone, but letting go meant the Bureau might fall apart. He had become the institution, and the institution was him.
On a crisp morning, a maid finds Hoover dead on his bedroom floor, fallen during the night. He is 77. For Richard Nixon, Hoover's death is a relief. He can now finally take his power and claim it for his own. Nixon appointed loyalist L. Patrick Gray as acting director. No FBI experience, Gray lasted months, destroyed by the Watergate scandal, taking down Nixon with him. J. Edgar Hoover lived 48 years as director, bending laws, breaking lives, collecting leverage on every powerful man in America, because he genuinely believed the Republic needed one iron hand to hold back anarchy.
So he was ruthless, paranoid, and sometimes cruel. But beneath it all, he had this conviction that he alone stood between chaos and collapse.
He broke laws, ruined lives, collected dirt on everyone, all because he truly believed America needed one man strong enough to protect it from chaos. He hated disorder more than he loved freedom. He played the tyrant to keep the Republic standing.
In the end, he died undefeated, the only man in Washington who never lost a fight he picked. His files stayed locked, his legends stayed dark, and the bureau he forged is still with us today. In recent years, the FBI has doubled down on AI, data science, and advanced analytics. Working for the Bureau today has become some of the most competitive jobs in government, which is why, especially at the start of a new year, this type of knowledge remains the foundation of long-term advantage. These are the exact kinds of skills our sponsor, Brilliant, helps you build. Brilliant is an interactive learning platform built for thinkers and builders. It turns tough subjects, math, computer science, data analysis, even AI, into bite-sized, hands-on lessons that actually make sense.
To navigate today's world, it's very beneficial to learn about game theory, probability, and AI.
It's one of the highest leverage skills you can develop going into a new year. Brilliant makes it approachable. You start with the basics, and step by step, it guides you into deeper, more challenging problem solving that actually sticks. This isn't trivia learning or 5-minute hacks. It's real understanding. Whether you want to break down the math behind markets, sharpen your problem-solving instincts, or understand how modern AI systems actually learn, Brilliant gives you the tools to think like an engineer and act like a leader. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/Phineas or click the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. The 1970s begin with Nixon's resignation and end with America on its knees. Watergate shatters trust in government, oil shocks double gas prices, inflation hits double digits, factories close, and cities like New York nearly go bankrupt. Vietnam ends in defeat, hostages are taken in Iran, and the country feels small, tired, and afraid. Hoover is gone, and Congress finally strikes back.
In 1975, the Church Committee, a bunch of senators led by Frank Church, dragged the FBI into the light. Agents testified under oath about decades of illegal wiretaps, opening Americans' mail, and running secret campaigns against Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement.
Senator Frank Church was named today to head the Senate's new committee investigating United States intelligence organizations. He said the panel would review the work of Vice President Rockefeller's Commission on the Central Intelligence Agency.
They revealed Hoover's private files on presidents, senators, movie stars, blackmail material. When the committee demanded those files, the Bureau quietly shredded or burned thousands of pages.
For the first time in 50 years, the all-powerful FBI was finally cut down to size. But that won't last for long. A new president will soon take charge, and he will make FBI more powerful than ever. By early 1980s, America is tired, humiliated, broke. Ronald Reagan rides in on a promise to make the country great again. He crushes Jimmy Carter in a landslide, cuts taxes, builds the military, and declares mourning in America.
We will be seen as having greater strength throughout the world. We will again be the exemplar of freedom and a beacon of hope for those who do not now have freedom.
The economy booms, Wall Street roars, and the Cold War heats up as Reagan calls the Soviet Union an evil empire and arms up to win. William H. Webster, a respected federal judge, has run the Bureau since 1978. He restores morale, focuses on white-collar crime, drugs, and foreign counterintelligence.
Reagan loved the FBI. He tore up the post-church committee restrictions, expanded wiretap authority, boosted the budget, and gave agents new tools to fight drugs and spies. Under Reagan, the Bureau got its muscle back.
The budget swells, agents get better tools, and the Bureau regains the public's trust as a professional force. No longer Hoover's private kingdom, but a modern law enforcement machine ready for the challenges ahead. Because a new adversary is on the rise, one that will strike without warning, vanish into crowds, and turn everyday objects into weapons of mass murder. The age of terrorism is here.
A car bomb exploded today 12 miles south of here on the southern coastal highway controlled by Israeli forces. 2 people were killed and several were wounded, state radio and witnesses said.
By the 1980s, a new kind of threat is emerging. In 1983, a truck bomb kills 241 American servicemen in Beirut. Libyan agents bomb a Berlin disco full of U.S. troops in 1986. The FBI investigates, but the attackers are overseas, protected by hostile governments.
We were built to catch bank robbers and spies, not suicide bombers hiding in foreign countries. We had no legal way to go after them abroad, no real intelligence sharing with CIA, and rules that kept criminal agents away from intelligence work. Terrorism wasn't a crime we understood yet.
A rented Ryder truck packed with fertilizer and fuel oil explodes beneath the World Trade Center. 6 people die, more than 1,000 are injured, and the towers sway but stand. The bombers are caught fast, but the mastermind, Ramzi Youssef, escapes overseas. 2 years later, April 19th, 1995, Timothy McVeigh parks another truck bomb outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. 168 dead, including 19 children. McVeigh is homegrown, radicalized by hatred of the government. The attacks shake Washington. President Clinton demands answers. FBI Director Louis Freeh, in charge since 1993, pours money into counterterrorism, opens a new lab, hires thousands of agents. But the Bureau is still playing catch-up. Rules separated intelligence from criminal work. There were just so many silos.
If Hoover had been alive, none of this would have happened. He would have had files on every mosque, every militia meeting, and every foreign student acting strange. He bent rules, broke laws, but he never let threats grow in the dark. We lost that edge when he died.
7,000 miles away from Washington, in the arid Badlands and rugged Spingar Mountains, a new name is rising in the shadows. Osama bin Laden, rich, patient, and burning with hate, has declared war on America from caves in Afghanistan. He funds camps, trains fighters, and dreams of something bigger than trucks and bombs. He wants to bring the towers down. And the FBI, still rebuilding, still divided, has no idea what is coming. September 11th, 2001. A perfect blue morning shatters at 8:46 when American Airlines Flight 11 punches through the North Tower like a burning arrow. 18 minutes later, United 175 carves into the South Tower. American 77 hits the Pentagon at 9:37. 93 United crashes in a Pennsylvania field after passengers fight back.
We believe that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center in New York.
19 Al-Qaeda hijackers, men whose names, faces, and travels had appeared on FBI watch lists, CIA cables, and field agent warnings, have turned 4 commercial airliners into weapons of vengeance. 2,977 souls vanish in fire and collapsing steel as the Twin Towers fold into their own footprints, and Manhattan disappears beneath a gray avalanche of dust and grief.
We had the hijackers' names, photos, even some flight school warnings, Phoenix memo, Minneapolis arrest, CIA cables, pieces were all there. But the Bureau was broken into silos. Intelligence didn't talk to criminal, headquarters didn't talk to field, and nobody connected the dots before the planes hit.
Failure is total, but it awakens a sleeping giant with terrible resolve.
Great harm has been done to us. We have suffered great loss, and in our grief and anger, we have found our mission. We will rally the world to this cause by our efforts. We will not tire, we will not falter, and we will not fail.
Before the ashes cool, Congress responds with a blank check written in fear and fury.
Today, the president signed a big new anti-terrorism bill that would expand the government's ability to track down terrorists.
The Patriot Act tears down legal walls, triples counterterrorism budget, gives the FBI new wiretap powers, national security letters, and authority to demand records without a judge. Robert Mueller takes over 1 week before the attacks. He inherits the worst day in FBI history, and the biggest blank check any director has ever been handed. The bureau that failed to stop 9/11 is about to become the most powerful it has ever been. The counterattack spans continents and decades. March 2003, American armor thunders across the Iraqi desert, chasing ghosts of weapons of mass destruction. May 2011, SEAL Team 6 fast ropes into a walled compound in Pakistan and ends Osama bin Laden with 2 shots to the head, a decade after the towers fell. April 2013, 2 brothers turned the Boston Marathon finish line into a killing floor with homemade bombs hidden in backpacks. June 2014, black-clad executioners raise the ISIS flag over Mosul and begin live streaming American decapitations. 2015, a married couple opens fire on a holiday party in San Bernardino, killing 14. Robert Mueller runs the FBI from 2001 to 2013, the longest tenure since Hoover. He triples the counterterrorism budget, turns thousands of agents into intelligence officers, builds fusion centers, and pushes the Bureau overseas. National security letters explode, secret wiretaps multiply, and the surveillance net covers the country.
Mueller gave it godlike powers. He was calm, honest, and believed every new tool was necessary. Mueller was the last director most people still trusted.
The country is safer than on September 11th, but it doesn't feel that way. By 2016, the nation is bone-tired and furious. Obama promised hope and change. Many feel they got endless war, economic pain, and political gridlock instead. The American dream feels like a bait and switch. Cities burn in protests, wages stagnate, and millions believe the system is rigged against them. And the anger is raw, electric, looking for a voice. That voice is coming. A new kind of leader is emerging, one who speaks directly to the rage, promises to drain the swamp, and will shake the FBI to its foundations. Donald Trump.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
Trump had announced his candidacy in June 2015, which may have been a publicity stunt, and to boost ratings for The Apprentice. Few analysts gave him a realistic chance until the final weeks of the campaign. But on November 8, 2016, Donald Trump wins the presidency against Hillary Clinton, despite losing the popular vote by nearly 3 million.
Trump won because he spoke directly to voters who felt economically abandoned and culturally dismissed. Manufacturing decline and wage stagnation had created a block that neither party had addressed. Clinton represented continuity. Trump, he offered disruption. America wanted to disrupt Washington.
Trump inherits the FBI from Obama, with James Comey as director since 2013. James Comey, the 6'8" former prosecutor with a reputation for rectitude, has led the Bureau since 2013, steering it through the post-9/11 surveillance wars. But no one knows what will happen next. By January 2017, FBI is investigating Russian election interference and possible links to the Trump campaign. British intelligence tipped off the Bureau in 2016 about contacts between Trump associates and Russian operatives.
President Trump says alleged misdeeds by his former campaign chairman took place years ago, and he insists there was no collusion between his 2016 campaign and Russia.
James Comey stands before the Senate and admits his October letter about Clinton's emails may have swayed the vote.
I have been authorized by the Department of Justice to confirm that the FBI, as part of our counterintelligence mission, is investigating the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. And that includes investigating the nature of any links between individuals associated with the Trump campaign and the Russian government, and whether there was any coordination between the campaign and Russia's efforts.
A bombshell announcement from Washington, D.C. FBI Director James Comey has been terminated and removed from office. President Trump saying he was acting based on the clear recommendations of both Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and Attorney General Jeff Sessions.
The official reason is Comey's handling of the Clinton email case. Everyone knows the real reason is the Russia probe.
It wasn't about emails. Trump wanted loyalty, and Comey wouldn't give it. The president asked him to drop the Russian investigation. When Comey wouldn't play ball, the axe fell.
But it backfires on Trump. 2 days later, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appoints Robert Mueller as special counsel to take over the Russia investigation. Trump rages, calls it a witch hunt. He picks Christopher Wray, a low-key former prosecutor, as the new FBI director in June 2017. Wray keeps his head down and survives.
Here at 6, the FBI has a new leader. The Senate confirmed Christopher Wray as FBI director today by a bipartisan vote of 92-5.
Mueller's investigation grinds on for 22 months, indicts dozens of Russians. It convicts Trump's campaign chairman and national security advisor, and leaves a permanent scar. And by November 3rd, 2020, Donald Trump lost the election to Joe Biden.
The Fox News decision desk can now project that former Vice President Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania and Nevada, putting him over the 270 electoral votes he needs to become the 46th President of the United States.
But that is not the end of it. Someday soon, the fallen king will return with a fury, and this time, no one will be able to stand in his way.
Constitution of the United States.
So help you God?
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Joe Biden takes office promising normalcy. Instead, America gets chaos. Inflation hits 9%. Gas prices double. The southern border sees record crossings. Cities struggle with crime spikes. And Afghanistan ends in a humiliating withdrawal. Supply chains break, shelves go empty, and millions feel the country is slipping backward. In the meantime, Donald Trump has been fighting in the ring constantly. 4 criminal indictments, 2 impeachments, a New York fraud trial, a Georgia election case, a federal documents case, a hush money conviction. He fights everyone.
Trump took more legal and political punishment than any candidate ever, and he just kept on fighting back. Anyone else would have been destroyed. So that kind of raw endurance is almost superhuman.
But Trump is about to come face to face with death itself. And in the meantime, show to the world the kind of man he truly is. Trump is speaking at a rally when a bullet grazes his ear. He drops, Secret Service piles on, then he stands up, blood on his face, fist in the air, shouting, 20-year-old shooter is killed by a counter-sniper. The FBI quickly calls it an assassination attempt and opens a domestic terrorism case. By November 5, 2024, America makes the decision, and they choose Donald Trump once again. The map turns red in waves. Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, all flip. The convicted felon, the twice impeached president, the man written off 1,000 times, completes the greatest political comeback in American history. But Trump is not the man who forgives those who transgress against him. And now, as the most powerful man in the world, he wants revenge. By 2025, the economy chugs along with unemployment steady at 4.3% and payroll gains concentrated in healthcare, but inflation clings stubbornly above 3%, squeezing families already battered by lingering supply chain snarls and energy spikes. Socially, America simmers in fracture. Border crossings strain resources, urban crime ticks upward in cities like Chicago and Philadelphia, and cultural wars rage over everything from transgender rights in schools to the teaching of American history, leaving half the country feeling censored and the other half under siege. The FBI is a professional force of 37,000 agents focused on counterterrorism and cyber threats. But morale is low after years of political attacks. But change is coming fast. Trump nominates Kash Patel on Inauguration Day, a loyalist who promises to clean house and refocus the Bureau on Trump's priorities.
The Senate has confirmed Kash Patel to be the next director of the FBI. The vote in the Republican-controlled Senate came despite Democratic concerns about Patel's relative lack of management experience compared to his predecessors.
Kash Patel, born February 25, 1980, in Garden City, New York, to Gujarati immigrant parents, earns a bachelor's in criminal justice from the University of Richmond. He graduates from Pace University School of Law in 2005, starts as a public defender in Florida, then joins the Justice Department as a national security prosecutor in 2014 under Obama. By 2017, he rises in Trump's orbit.
Patel was Trump's guy through and through, so he wouldn't hesitate to use the power of FBI to help out the big boss.
And Trump wants to use that power now to deal with an old grudge. Trump sees Comey as the face of the deep state that tried to destroy him.
We have some breaking news right now on ABC News Live reports. Sources are telling ABC News that a grand jury has in fact indicted ex-FBI Director James Comey.
In a Virginia federal courthouse, a grand jury returns a 2-count indictment against Comey. One for making a false statement, another for obstructing a congressional proceeding, all rooted in his 2020 Senate testimony about an FBI leak he allegedly authorized but denied. Patel, sworn in as director months earlier, drives the machinery from his Hoover building perch, tasking a hand-picked team to dredge up memos, re-interview witnesses, and stitch together a case that had languished for years.
A judge in Washington, D.C., ruling the government improperly accessed some of the key evidence it used to initially indict Comey earlier this year on charges of lying to Congress. The judge now temporarily blocking the Justice Department from using it.
Comey's lawyers file motions, and 2 federal judges, citing Trump's own inflammatory tweets and the ouster of Siebert as smoking guns of bias, dismiss 1 count each for insufficient evidence and selective prosecution. The surviving charges limp forward, trial slated for spring 2026 in Alexandria. The war is far from over, and Trump is not the one who quits easily. By the end of 2025, America sits in a strange new equilibrium. GDP growth has settled at 2.7%. Unemployment is 4.1%. Inflation is down to 2.9% after the tariff wars cooled, but household debt is at record levels and the national debt has crossed $38 trillion. Cities report the lowest violent crime rates in 30 years. Immigration crossings have fallen 78% from 2024 peaks, and urban streets feel noticeably calmer. Political division remains sharp, yet public approval of the government has climbed to 52%, the highest since 2002.
With all of this work being done to make America great again, we continue to see a positive response from the American public. A brand new poll published from the Daily Mail and JL Partners this morning found that President Trump's approval rating is at an all-time high.
The FBI in late 2025 is larger, richer, and more centralized than at any point in its history. The workforce stands at 38,000 employees. The counterterrorism budget is $4.8 billion, and new domestic intelligence divisions track online extremism, foreign influence, and organized retail crime. Kash Patel runs day-to-day operations, but every major decision still carries the personal stamp of President Donald Trump, who reviews weekly threat briefings and personally approves high-profile investigations. Millions of Americans are tired of seeing criminals walk free. They remember the 2020 riots, the smash-and-grab videos, the defund the police slogans. They want order. They want someone to lock the doors and throw away the key. The FBI is now that someone.
The FBI is America's immune system. Sometimes it fights the disease, sometimes it attacks the body.
Under Trump, it is faster, stronger, and less accountable than ever.
The bureau that Hoover built, that survived Watergate, 9/11, and January 6th, now answers to one man. It is richer, larger, and more feared than at any point in its 117-year life.
The FBI is this great contradiction. It was born to protect democracy and freedom, but at the same time, it has the power to destroy them at any time.
It has been hero and villain, shield and sword. No other nation gave one agency so much power for so long. The guardian of liberty has become the final judge of who gets to keep it.